Hashtag the last goodbye. Have you ever wondered what you'd say if you knew it was the last time you'd see someone? The last words that would hang in the air between you, becoming the period at the end of your shared story? That's where our journey begins today, with a goodbye that wasn't supposed to be final, but somehow became the defining moment in Eliza's life. If this story resonates with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more emotional journeys that remind us what it means to be human. The rain fell in sheets against the windows of Eliza's apartment, matching the tears that streamed down her face as she clutched her phone, staring at the last text message she'd ever sent her brother. "See you Sunday. Don't forget the board games." Such an ordinary message. Nothing special. Nothing that screamed, "This matters," or "Remember this." Just a casual reminder about their weekly family dinner, the one he never made it to. 3 years had passed since the accident. 3 years of birthdays without his terrible singing, 3 years of holidays with an empty chair, 3 years of Sundays without board games. Eliza had packed away most of his things, donated his clothes, even managed to speak at his memorial without completely falling apart. But she couldn't bring herself to delete his number from her phone or remove their text thread. It was the last conversation they'd had, digital breadcrumbs leading back to when her world was whole. On this particular rainy Tuesday, the anniversary of his death, Eliza found herself doing something she'd done countless times before, typing a message to him. She never sent them, of course. She would type out her thoughts, her regrets, her updates on life, and then delete them, finding some small comfort in the familiar action. But today, her trembling thumb hit send before she could stop herself. "I miss you every day. I wish I'd said something more important the last time we talked." She stared in horror at the delivered message, sent to a number that surely belonged to someone else now, if it belonged to anyone at all. Embarrassment flooded through her as she imagined a stranger receiving this deeply personal message. She quickly typed an apology. "I'm so sorry. Wrong number. Please ignore." But the response came almost immediately, "Who did you lose?" Eliza froze, her heart pounding. She should ignore it, block the number, pretend this never happened. Instead, she found herself responding. "My brother. 3 years ago today." "I'm sorry," came the reply. "What was his name?" "Daniel. Tell me about Daniel." And somehow, sitting on her couch with rain pattering against the windows, Eliza began texting a complete stranger about her brother. About his terrible jokes and his brilliant mind. About how he could fix anything mechanical but couldn't cook to save his life. About how he was the only person who understood her completely, without judgment or expectation. The stranger, who eventually introduced himself as Marcus, listened through his messages. He asked questions. He shared that he'd lost his mother 2 years ago and still called her phone just to hear her voicemail. There was something freeing about talking to someone who didn't know her, who hadn't been there for the funeral or the grief-stricken months that followed. Someone who was just getting to know Daniel through her words, making him real again in a different way. Their conversation continued for hours, until Eliza realized the rain had stopped and night had fallen. She felt lighter somehow, as if sharing Daniel with someone new had redistributed the weight of his absence. "Thank you," she wrote. "This helped more than you know." "Anytime," Marcus replied. "Maybe we could talk again sometime. Not just about the people we've lost, but about other things too." Eliza hesitated, her finger hovering over the keyboard. She'd spent 3 years carefully constructing walls around her heart, focusing on her graphic design work, maintaining just enough social contact to keep her friends from worrying. The thought of letting someone new into her life, even just as a texting friend, felt both terrifying and strangely appealing. "I'd like that," she finally responded. Their text friendship evolved slowly. They discovered they both loved obscure indie films and had strong opinions about breakfast foods. Marcus was a high school English teacher who wrote poetry on the side. He sent her lines sometimes, not his best work, he claimed, but words that made her see ordinary things in new ways. Eliza shared her design projects with him, valuing his thoughtful feedback. 2 months after their first exchange, Marcus suggested they meet in person. There was a poetry reading at a bookstore halfway between their towns. Eliza's immediate instinct was to refuse, to keep this friendship in the safe realm of text messages. But Daniel's voice seemed to whisper in her ear, "Take a chance, Liz," and she found herself agreeing. The bookstore was warm and inviting, with mismatched chairs arranged in rows and the comforting smell of old books and coffee in the air. Eliza arrived early, claiming a seat near the back, ready to flee if necessary. She recognized Marcus immediately when he walked in, matching the single photo he'd sent her. Tall, with kind eyes and a slightly nervous smile. He spotted her and waved, making his way through the chairs to sit beside her. "It's good to finally meet you," he said, his voice deeper than she'd imagined. "You too," she replied, surprised by how comfortable she felt in his presence. The poetry reading was beautiful, words about loss and hope and the small moments that make up a life. Afterward, they walked to a nearby cafe, talking as if they'd known each other for years rather than months. Eliza found herself laughing, really laughing, for the first time in what felt like forever. "I have a confession," Marcus said as they finished their coffee. "I recognized your brother's name when you first mentioned it. Daniel Chen, right? The engineer who developed that solar water filtration system for developing countries?" Eliza nodded, surprised. "You knew of him?" "I used his work as an example for my students, how one person can make a difference. I had no idea he was your brother until you started describing him and it clicked. His work will help thousands of people have clean water." Tears pricked at Eliza's eyes. Daniel had been so proud of that project, working nights and weekends to perfect it. He died just weeks after the prototype was successfully tested. The foundation he worked for had continued his project, but Eliza had distanced herself from it, the connection too painful. "I haven't kept up with what happened to his work," she admitted. "It hurt too much." Marcus nodded understanding. "That makes sense. But when you're ready, I think you might find some comfort in seeing how his legacy continues." That night, after saying goodbye to Marcus with a promise to meet again soon, Eliza opened her laptop and searched for information about Daniel's water filtration system. She found articles, videos of the system being installed in villages, and testimonials from families whose lives had been improved. She cried as she read, but these tears felt different, bittersweet rather than just bitter. Over the following months, Eliza slowly reconnected with Daniel's former colleagues. She attended a fundraiser for the foundation and saw firsthand how his work was changing lives. She even began using her design skills to help with their promotional materials, finding purpose in contributing to his legacy. Her relationship with Marcus deepened too. They explored museums together, argued good-naturedly about books, and gradually shared more of their lives with each other. He was patient when grief overwhelmed her, understanding that healing wasn't linear. And she supported him through his own difficult days, the anniversaries and birthdays that made his mother's absence feel fresh again. A year after their first text exchange, Marcus took Eliza to the beach at sunset. They walked barefoot along the shore, the cool water lapping at their ankles. "I've been thinking about last words," Marcus said, picking up a smooth stone and turning it over in his hand. "How we put so much weight on them." Eliza nodded, watching the horizon where the sun was sinking into the sea in a blaze of orange and pink. "I used to obsess over the last thing I said to Daniel, wishing it had been more meaningful. But maybe it's not about the last words," Marcus suggested. "Maybe it's about all the words that came before. The thousands of conversations and inside jokes and arguments and apologies. The whole story, not just the ending." Eliza considered this, feeling the truth of it settle in her heart. "I like that. That the last words don't have to carry all the meaning. And maybe," Marcus continued, taking her hand, "we put too much emphasis on last words because we're afraid of what comes next. The blank page after the story ends. But new stories begin, Eliza said softly, squeezing his hand. They do. He smiled at her, his eyes reflecting the sunset. I'm grateful our stories intersected. Me too, she whispered. That night, Eliza dreamed of Daniel. Not as she usually did, reliving memories or imagining the life events he was missing, but as he might be now, happy and at peace. In the dream, he hugged her tightly and said, "I'm so proud of you, Liz." She woke with tears on her cheeks but a lightness in her heart. She reached for her phone and opened the text thread with Daniel's number, the one that had led her to Marcus. For 3 years, she'd kept it as a connection to the past. Now, she took a screenshot to preserve it, then finally deleted the thread. It wasn't about forgetting. It was about making room for new beginnings while carrying the love forward. 5 years later, Eliza stood in a sunlit room, putting the finishing touches on a display for the Daniel Chan Foundation's anniversary celebration. The walls showcased photographs of communities around the world benefiting from his water filtration system, alongside information about the Foundation's expanded mission to provide sustainable technology solutions to those in need. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus, "On my way with Emma. She's excited to see her mom's work." Eliza smiled, picturing their 3-year-old daughter's enthusiasm. Emma had Daniel's curious eyes and boundless energy. They'd told her stories about the uncle she'd never met but whose legacy she was part of. When they arrived, Emma ran to Eliza, chattering about the butterfly they'd seen on the way. Marcus followed more slowly, carrying a small box. "What's that?" Eliza asked after kissing him hello. "Something I've been saving for today." He handed her the box. "Open it." Inside was a beautiful leather-bound journal. Eliza opened it to find Marcus's handwriting filling the first page. "I started writing down all the stories you've told me about Daniel," he explained. "So Emma will know him through more than just photographs. I thought maybe we could continue it together, add memories as they come to you." Eliza traced her fingers over the words, emotion tightening her throat. "This is perfect," she managed to say. Later that evening, as the Foundation supporters gathered to celebrate the lives changed by Daniel's work, Eliza stood at the podium, Marcus and Emma beside her. "My brother believed that the purpose of life was to leave the world better than we found it," she told the crowd. "For a long time after losing him, I couldn't see past my grief to continue that mission. But I've learned that love doesn't end when someone leaves us. It transforms. It finds new ways to express itself." She looked at her husband and daughter, at the room full of people committed to continuing Daniel's work, at the photos of families with clean water. "The last words I said to my brother were about board games," she said with a small smile. "Nothing profound or meaningful. But they didn't need to be, because our story wasn't defined by its ending. It continues in all of us who carry his love forward, who build on his work, who live with the same purpose that guided him." As she spoke, Eliza felt a sense of completion, not of her journey with grief, which would always be part of her, but of her understanding of what it meant to say goodbye. It wasn't an ending but a transformation. The love remained, finding new expressions, new channels, new ways to change the world. And in that moment, surrounded by the legacy of love that had grown from loss, Eliza knew that there were no true last goodbyes, only love continuing in different forms, reaching across time and space to connect us all. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories that explore the depths of human experience. Remember that your own story continues beyond the difficult chapters, and that love, in all its forms, is the thread that binds us together, even across the boundaries of goodbye.